let's have a look at what's grabbing the news headlines here in France. Lots of focus today on politics. Last week, of course, President François Hollande surprised everyone by saying he's not going to run for his election. But his Prime Minister, Manuel Valls, I'm sure you've been following this, has announced that he is going to run in the left-wing primary. We've been waiting for this for ages.
That's right. Everyone knew he was going to do it, and he finally made it official last night. Let's take a look at the front page of Le Figaro today. Big story across the political spectrum. We'll start with the right-wing paper. You can see they're saying that he wants to reconcile the divided left. He's making eyes at the left. Il fait les yeux doux, making soft eyes. Inside, you can read more about it. Le Figaro says Valls has entered the arena, and he admitted that in the past he has had some hard words, caused some misunderstandings, if you will. But all that is in the past. It's all about reconciliation today.
Yeah, critics say he's been partially responsible, of course, for this real fracture within the left. Many wondering if many others are going to be able to forget him.
That's right. Let's take a look at the editorial in Le Figaro. They're scratching their head. They're trying to get their head around this. They say, just so we're clear, Valls is going to try and reconcile the two lefts that he drove to divorce. It's a tough task, but Valls believes that he's got a chance. And he's already starting to metamorphose. If we look at the editorial, you can see they're talking more about that. Just yesterday, when he announced he was going to run, you could see the change in his tone. He was suddenly soft. He was relaxed. Gone is the dark, warlike Valls. But it all seems like this is kind of against his nature. You can read more about it here in Le Figaro. Is he going to be able to carry off this very sophisticated exercise of essentially running against himself? You can see Manuel Valls contre Valls Manuel. Same guy, just the names are reversed. Essentially, he's going to have to go against his nature, according to Le Figaro.
Not everyone convinced, though, particularly the far left here.
That's right. Let's take a look at the front page of L'Humanité, the communist paper. They're not really convinced by Manuel Valls as someone who can reconcile the left. Let's take a look at their front page. They say that he is the biggest common divider of the left. You can see this photo here of a much less softer-looking Valls. Now, L'Humanité really lashes out against the outgoing prime minister. All he's ever done is violently go against his own party. He's beat it to a pulp. You can see they're using really harsh language here. Now, suddenly he's shedding his skin and transforming into candidate Valls, kind of like a butterfly, goes through metamorphosis. But L'Humanité doesn't buy it. It seems like L'Humanité hasn't forgotten some of those harsh things that Valls has said. For instance, once upon a time, he talked about two lefts and how irreconcilable they were.
Now, of course, Manuel Valls has thrown his hat into a very, very crowded ring. Competition very tough within the left wing. Le Parisien is taking a closer look at that flow.
La gauche cherche son patron. The left is looking for its boss. You can see that very crowded. Well, some of the candidates on the front page here, you can see Jean-Luc Mélenchon on the far left, Arnaud Montebourg, the former Minister of Industrial Renewal. You have the former Economy Minister, Emmanuel Macron. You have Manuel Valls. You can see it's already crowded, and these aren't even all the candidates that have said that they wanted to run. Now, Le Parisien isn't convinced either, and they're also scratching their head. They say, honestly, as hard as we look, as hard as we try, we don't really see one person who's going to be able to bring the left together to avoid the kind of walloping that the left experienced back in 2002. You might remember the left didn't even make it to round 2 of the presidential election. And Aujourd'hui en France says if things continue the way they are, well, that could happen again this year. Next year, rather.
Next year, yes, exactly. Not just in France that the left is in trouble. According to L'Opinion, it's a global phenomenon that France couldn't escape.
That's right. Social democracy is in the middle of a historic crisis across the world, according to L'Opinion. Let's take a look at the front page. You can see they're talking about la panne générale. It's the general breakdown. Now, we've seen in Italy, Matteo Renzi facing a walloping defeat in his referendum. Stateside, Hillary Clinton lost out to Donald Trump. I love this cartoon. I think it's very evocative by CAC here. You can see Hillary Clinton, Matteo Renzi, and President François Hollande looking like penguins on this little block of melting ice. And you can see that big polar bear that represents the extreme right and that big seal that represents the extreme left, both looking very hungry. Those little penguins look like they're in for a tough time. And Libération, the left-leaning paper, agrees with this analysis. Very interesting front page as well. You can see they're talking about how the second left is searching for a second wind, if you will. It seems like across Europe, social democracy is taking a beating. And Libé as well predicts that Valls' candidacy is going to be very complicated.
Now, staying in politics, the Catholic paper Le Croix, they've got a very interesting poll today. Now, this is about young people 5 months before the presidential election.
It's an interesting warning for politicians just a couple of months before the presidential election. Let's take a look at some of these statistics that are coming out of this poll. According to this poll, 43% of 17 to 24-year-olds say that they're going to vote, but 65% of them feel like their opinion doesn't really count or matter to politicians. Now, another very interesting statistic in this poll is that 1/3 of young people say they feel best represented by figures on social media. So bloggers, YouTubers, influential people on Twitter. Only 8%, it's almost this, I think it's the second to last, 8% feel that they are best represented by politicians. Now, Lacroix explains this by saying that politicians communicate with young people in a very vertical way. It hasn't really changed much, but things have changed for young people, and they see the world in a much more horizontal way. And so that's why they don't feel represented by politicians, but by people online.
Finally, from Flo, you may have noticed that Flo Villeneuve is wearing a France 24 coloured top today.
I am,
I've
and I have
noticed
my
that.
mug.
And you have your mug. Why is that, Flo?
Well, it's because it's our birthday. It's the 10th birthday of France 24. And interestingly enough, a lot of papers are paying tribute to France 24. You can see this article in L'Humanité. We're blowing out our 10 candles today. And L'Humanité has really glowing words for France 24, saying that France 24 is all about freedom, equality, also secularism, diverse points of view, and universality. So it's a really nice article about France 24 and a great way to say happy birthday to our channel.
That's not bad, is it? Thank you, L'Humanité. We agree with that, I think, don't we?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Thank you, Flo. Flo Villeneuve in her France 24 colours on France 24. She'll be back a little bit later on.